The biggest news in human evolution in about 16 years was announced last week, and I bet you missed it.
All right, let's see just how big this news is.
The research is suggesting that 300,000 years ago, a species of human who had a small brain, a species called Homo naledi, had a female-only burial ground. And to segregate your dead by sex is behavior that we only see in our species 5,000 years ago. See, to attach that much meaning to death is culturally complex behavior.
Here we run into an issue, though, because we don't really know how much meaning these alleged people attached to death. All we know is they buried females separately. What we can say from our own cultural lens is that if humans today did this, then it would be right to conclude that there was some cultural meaning there. But we don't really know that for such an ancient finding.
To even have burial is something we only see much, much, much later on. 10 years ago, we were debating if the Neanderthals were capable of it, even though they had similar sized brains to us. See, the general orthodoxy is that we evolved bigger and bigger brains, and with it, complexity came, right? Cultural complexity and technological complexity.
The complexity of an organism's behavior is determined by its software, not its brain size. So there's certain software running on that organism's brain, and if those instructions are complex, then it can enact complex behavior. Humans, for example, have tiny brains compared to whales, but humans are much smarter than whales. We see this in consumer electronics all the time. As the computers get better, they actually get smaller. Brain size is a limiting factor in terms of storage capacity, but that's about it.
To bury your dead is a big idea. To bury your dead by gender is a huge idea.
Now, apparently there are some animals that bury their dead. Don't quote me on it, but I found some accounts of this online. Apparently some rats do this, for example. But we could see how evolution would pre-program this into their genes, right? So for example, if any genes ever happen to code for behavior that leads to burial, then as a result, diseases spread less or something. And this in turn helps those genes spread better. Now that wouldn't explain why bury females specifically, but you could see how something like that could arise in evolution and doesn't make it culturally significant. Now put yourself in the shoes of a programmer who's been hired to make a simulation of this behavior. You're supposed to write some simulation or some video game, let's say, that has non-playable characters, NPCs, that do this kind of thing. They dig up dirt, they put the female skeletons in the ground, there's some lightning there, and then they put the dirt back on top. And now ask yourself, how hard would that be to write that simulation? Arguably, it wouldn't be that difficult. I'm a programmer, take it from me, it would not be that hard. And so that's why I think it's not that impressive. This behavior is not that impressive. We're just expected to shower primitive tribes with praise. It's a cool start, but we need a way to rule out that evolution just pre-programmed this kind of behavior genetically. Because once it's pre-programmed like that, then it can just be enacted mindlessly, robotically, with no cultural significance. Knowledge of programming is a fundamental skill that anthropologists would need to really gauge whether or not this finding is a big deal.